Welcome to the fourth video in this series on panic attacks. Although this video can be watched on its own, if you want to learn how to reduce or even eliminate panic attacks, then you need to watch the series from the beginning. People who suffer recurring panic attacks are constantly experiencing negative thoughts. These thoughts reach a crescendo when they have a panic attack. In this video, you will learn about types of negative thoughts, the effect that those negative thoughts have, and then how to challenge those thoughts to help create a more balanced way of thinking. We will do this using a technique I call putting your thoughts on trial. Then you'll be given some tasks to do, which you will continue to use to aid your recovery from panic disorder over the coming months. Negative thoughts are common in most anxiety disorders, and there are many types. These are some of the common types in panic disorder. Generalization involves creating laws and assumptions about the world based on a negative view. These laws and assumptions have little evidence base. Catastrophization is the most common, and we will cover that in more detail later. Black and white thinking, thinking in absolutes only. It's all or nothing. There is no in between. Mind reading, thinking we know what other people are thinking or what their motives are. And finally, filtering, where our interpretation of an event is distorted by our beliefs. Now let's look at some examples and see if you recognize any. For generalization, an example is given where there's been a bad experience in one place, but the negative thinking has generalized the experience to include many other places. The black and white thought is linked to generalization. Rather than think, I might feel a bit anxious going into the garden, the negative thinking sees only two categories, safe places and places I will have a panic attack. Nothing in between. Of course, as panic disorder gets worse, there will be no safe places, but we will learn what you can do to stop that happening anyway. Mind reading. For some people with panic disorder, there's a social anxiety element, where they worry what people will think of them and they assume that everyone will think of them negatively, which of course is not the case. They are thinking, people will think I'm strange if they know I have panic attacks, so I better avoid going anywhere so that people don't see me have a panic attack. Here's an example for filtering. With an anxiety disorder, there will always be good days and bad days, but it is easy to filter out the good days and focus only on the bad. By far the most common type of negative thinking in panic disorder is catastrophizing, thoughts of something terrible happening. These can come at any time, but are strongest during the panic attack. If you go on any panic attack forum, you will see that these are some of the most common worries. People worry about suffocating, fainting, having a heart attack, going mad. Now the problem with these negative thoughts is that they lead to avoidance. You may stop working, stop driving or using public transport. You may stop going out, leading to agoraphobia. Life can become very limited indeed, and despite avoiding all these activities or places, the panic attacks still become more frequent and more intense. And the other problem is, avoidance strengthens the thought. The thought has been given credence by your actions. Have a look at how our friend Annie's thoughts have developed now that she's started avoiding things. Annie's mind is saying, I don't drive because if I faint I will crash. This has given credence to the thought that she'll faint when she has a panic attack. She says, I don't go to the supermarket because I might faint in front of everyone. Again, this is reinforcing the thought and the belief that she'll faint if she has a panic attack, even though she never has and is never likely to. She thinks, I don't take the bus because if I go mad in front of everyone, they might section me. Again, reinforcing the thought that she could go mad during a panic attack. We will talk more about avoidance behaviours in the next video, But for now, let's stay with the thoughts. How do you counter these negative thoughts, which can be so powerful? Let's have a look. So now you're going to learn a technique I call putting your thoughts on trial. Imagine you were in a court of law, only you are going to present the case for both the prosecution and the defence. Annie commonly worries that she will faint during a panic attack. She has no problem finding evidence to support this thought because she feels dizzy when she has a panic attack. You really have to try hard to find the evidence against the thought because you're not used to thinking in this way. But Annie realizes she has never actually fainted during the hundreds of panic attacks that she has had. She also has a look on Google and discovers that fainting is caused by a sudden drop in blood pressure, yet blood pressure actually goes up during a panic attack, so she can't faint. Now it's time for your first task. It's really important that you do this if you want to take the first step in stopping these negative thoughts from limiting your life. The first thing to do is to divide a piece of paper into 4 sections. In section 1, write down a catastrophic thought that you get when having or thinking about panic attacks. In section 2, write down the evidence that supports this thought. In section 3, try to write down the evidence that disputes this thought. Then in section 4, create a new sentence that is balanced. It should acknowledge both sides of the evidence. Here is an example of a typical catastrophizing thought. The thought is, I am having a heart attack. The evidence for is my heart goes really fast and I can't breathe. The evidence against is I've had lots of panic attacks, but I've never had a heart attack. My doctor has confirmed that my heart is fine and it's just anxiety. The problem breathing is just panic and will pass. Now the balanced sentence that you can make out of this is, although my heart goes fast and I struggle to breathe, my heart is fine. It's just anxiety and it will pass. Now let's look at an example of a case of black and white thinking. The thought is, I always have a panic attack when I go out. The evidence for is, I had a panic attack on the bus, the train station, in work, in the shopping mall, and at the supermarket. The evidence against is I've never had a panic attack in the corner shop, or at my friend's house, or in the garden. So a balanced sentence might be, although I have had panic attacks in lots of places, there are places I have not had them. I'm going to go there, so I'm not stuck inside, worrying all the time. So in this case, reframing the thought to be more balanced has led to a positive behaviour, going out. And we will learn more later why that is so important. So now that you have seen some examples, try performing the thoughts on trial task for as many catastrophic thoughts that you can think of. Try some other thought types like black and white thinking. Start off with at least 5. Whenever the anxious thoughts come, repeat this task. After a panic attack, use this task to reflect. It's okay to repeat the same task again and again over the coming months. It will reaffirm a more balanced way of thinking. This technique is fairly easy to do, but you need to do it regularly and you must write it down, as it helps the new way of thinking stick in the mind. You can further reinforce this more balanced way of thinking by creating affirmations. Turn your balanced sentences into new affirmations that you use when you're worried or having a panic attack. Here we see the balanced sentence that Annie created about heart attacks, which she now uses as an affirmation when she feels anxious or has a panic attack. So dealing with negative thoughts is an important part of cognitive behavioural therapy. Cognitive simply means thinking. However, on its own, it will not have a big impact on the panic attacks. It has to be done in conjunction with the second part of CBT, behaviours. So in the next video, we're going to learn about the role of behaviours in panic attacks, particularly state behaviours.